All right, what's going on, everybody? It's Derek here back with Dog Media, and this is the fantasy football podcast that we have going on here. This is going to be episode 3. We're going to go over a lot of breaking news that happened over the weekend. Um, we're going to go over some waiver picks, things of that nature. We're just going to react to this week 1 of fantasy football. Football is back. I know week 1 scoring was a little bit weird if you're in a league like mine. It was not what you expected. Joe Burrow, didn't have the game he wanted. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. As our news for today, today is Tuesday, September 12th. If anybody was wondering when this is being recorded, right after the Monday Night Football game, and the hot topic going around everywhere is Aaron Rodgers. What's going on with them? Well, they had an X-ray last night. If you didn't see the play, go back and watch it. He got sacked. He kind of came down awkward. His foot, it's kind of like his calf, or his, I guess they're calling it an Achilles injury right now. He had X-rays on it, came back negative. Again, I see a lot of people commenting, well, the X-rays came back negative. He'll be fine. X-rays do not show muscles or tendons. It could be a calf strain. They fear that it's a torn Achilles. Let's hope. I hope it's not. We'll see if we get the news notification in the middle of this show. With that being said, what if it is a torn Achilles? We'll speculate. I know we're not supposed to speculate. What does that mean for the Jets? We'll talk about it a little later with Garrett Wilson, but I don't like any of the receivers now. I don't like Garrett Wilson on my team. It's going to be a run heavy offense. They're going to go through Dalvin Cook. They're going to go through Brees Hall. This is what they brought Dalvin Cook in to do, carry the workload. This is what they have Brees Hall for, as you saw last night if you watched the game. I mean, he at one point he had 2 carries for 109 yards. He broke off a big, I guess it was like 80-yard run. He ran out of gas because he's missed all of training camp. But they had the ball at, I think, the 5 yard line, and he just broke loose and took it to the inside the 20 on the opposite end of the field. You have Dalvin Cook, who came in and got some crucial carries to pick up some first downs. He's the pace difference in both of them are going to complement each other very well. I don't think anyone was sure how that was going to work for them, but the fact that they were both able to come in and be good fantasy running backs, and Brees Hall, of course, is back to his original state from last year, week 1. We weren't expecting that from him. We weren't expecting very much out of him. But I think, like I said, at one point he was averaging 50 yards a touch. So he also got in on the passing game, and he took a pass for 15 plus yards. Dude is just explosive. He's going to be a player that you want to look out for. Maybe try to trade for. I don't know. I don't know if you will even be able to trade for him after that. But you're happy with him. As I was saying in the show last week, if you drafted him in the 5th round, 4th round, you got to start him. And you were happy with what you got out of him last night. That is exactly way more than what you wanted. It's something that you're excited for as a Brees Hall owner going forward. I unfortunately do not have any shares of Brees Hall, but that is a player that I am targeting to get now. It's just now it's going to take a lot more than a 4th round pick that where he was taken. So yeah, Aaron Rodgers, that's tough. That sucks, man. I remember watching it last night and I felt sick to my stomach. I did not want to see him go down. I was actually excited, even as an Eagles fan. I was excited to watch him play. I was excited to see what he could bring to New York, but it's just not in the cards for him this year. Doesn't look like it's going to be his year at all. It looks like he's probably going to miss the rest of the season with the torn Achilles. And we're not sure what happens to him going forward. At his age, he could very well retire. I know that would be disappointing to Jets fans. They wanted to see him, but a torn Achilles at his age, if that's what it happens to be, I don't see him playing football ever again. I think that's the last we see of Aaron Rodgers. Greg Dulcich, a tight end for the Denver Broncos, has a leg injury. He is expected to miss a large portion of the year. So if you have them, drop them, pick up another tight end. We'll talk about it later in our waiver targets. Austin Eckler is dealing with an ankle injury. That's something to monitor. He probably won't practice this week, but just monitor it. If you have an extra bench spot, we'll talk about waivers a little later, but we're not going to mention about Joshua Kelly. But he is someone to monitor if you are an Eckler owner. Uh, Jacoby Myers was well on his way to being a top five wide receiver this week. He is in concussion protocol. monitor his status. If not, look at Hunter Renfro. And of course, you always have Devontae Adams on that team. Jimmy G was spreading the ball around really well. That is an interesting shakedown. They were able to beat the Broncos late, and Jimmy G carried the team. Aaron Jones hurt his hamstring on a long touchdown run. His status is uncertain, something to monitor. AJ Dillon's not going to be available. He was widely drafted. So don't bother or look on your waiver wire. Maybe he was dropped, but I highly doubt that AJ Dillon was dropped. He would be the next man up should Aaron Jones miss time. And Deontay Johnson also hurt his hamstring. This one looked a little bit more severe than the others. He's expected to be sidelined for a few weeks. So look at, I mean, how they played yesterday or Sunday against the 49ers. I'm not really interested in any of the wide receivers they have besides George Pickens and Pat Fryermuth. Other than that, don't even try to target anyone. Don't go for Allen Robinson. Don't do it. Another big one, J.K. Dobbins tore his Achilles as well. He is going to be done for the year. Such a sad situation for J.K. Dobbins. He just can't stay healthy. He's ended up on the IR on what feels like every year of his career. He is going into the final year of his deal, so that's something to look out for if you're a dynasty owner. And just overall, just some weird injuries happening this week. I don't think anyone expected Aaron Rodgers to go down. I know week one always has their fair shake of injuries just from players not playing in the preseason. Their bodies aren't ready for game action. That's why I never really understood why starters don't play a little bit in preseason. I know Aaron Rodgers did, but some of these guys, like the older players, you got to get them warmed up. They take a little bit longer. It's like an old truck. It takes a little bit longer for them to get warmed up. Got to be more, these teams got to be smarter with their older players. And I know that's a freak accident. I'm not saying the Jets did anything wrong. Like I said, Aaron Rodgers did play in the preseason, but it's just one of those situations where you just wish it didn't happen. Out of all players, you wish it wasn't him. You don't wish it on any player, but the hype, it's just a tough situation for the New York Jets as now they go from playoff contender to will they even make the playoffs? I know they beat the Bills last night on a punt return for a touchdown. The Hard Knocks hero takes it in for a touchdown to win the game in overtime, Xavier Gibson. That was very heartwarming and storybook ending to that game. Talk about some reactions. Let's talk about some overreactions, underreactions, sleepers, etc. It was a weird scoring week, as I mentioned earlier. Burrow only had 82 yards passing. That's not something you want out of your $250 million quarterback. You want him to come in, at least throw 100 yards at the very least. He wasn't able to do so. Could be the calf strain. I know he mentioned in a press conference after the game that he wasn't able to get in there in training camp and work with his group and work with the ones. So he wasn't making an excuse. He wish he could have done that, but we'll see going forward how that shakes out for Joe Burrow. I expect him to be fine. Josh Allen, this is something that has the only dark cloud that's been over Josh Allen's head is turnovers. And last night he had 4 turnovers. He threw 3 interceptions and fumbled. He basically threw the game to the other team. This is something that isn't new for Josh Allen. This has happened every year of his career. He's turned the ball over. He's near the top of the league in interceptions every year. What complements that is he's just able to throw so many touchdowns and rush for so many yards. People forget about it. Takes his team to the playoffs. Gets wins his division. But losing to a division rival in the Jets, people are going to spotlight that even more. Be on the lookout for his turnovers this year. I know it's week one. It's just, this is why I don't like taking a quarterback in the second round of fantasy drafts. Josh Allen was going in the second, third round, no later than. And now he comes out and posts 4 turnovers and doesn't throw over 200 yards. That's not something you want out of a second round pick. You want something like, Amon Ra at the turn, or you want something like a Calvin Ridley. If you took Calvin Ridley in the second round, you were pleased this week as he had well over 20 points in PPR formats. But that's not something you want to see out of a second round quarterback. And really, all of the big three, Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen, didn't have extraordinary games. Mahomes had the interception. Jalen Hurts struggled. Their offense struggled. So you got a guy like Tua and Mac Jones, who are the 1 and 2 quarterbacks on the week, who were either drafted last or not, or Mac Jones is sitting there on waiver wires right now. And he did that to a very, very good defense. T. Higgins and Drake London. Let's talk about these guys for a minute. I know we just mentioned Joe Burrow was held to only 82 passing yards. None of those went to T. Higgins. T. Higgins had 0 catches on 0 targets, 0 yards. He's going to be okay. Like I said, it's just a weird week 1. There's no reason to overreact on him. He's their number 2 guy. Jamar Chase didn't even have a good game. Just hold your horses, take a deep breath, look at the rest of the season. In most fantasy formats, the playoffs don't start until week 14. You have 13 weeks to put it all together. But these next 2 weeks with T. Higgins and Drake London are going to speak volumes to how they're going to be used in the offense. Again, just a weird week in the Cleveland and Cincinnati game. It was rainy. Joe Burrow, again, didn't have any snaps in the preseason. He was hurt, comes out, doesn't look very good. This was his preseason. This was a lot of starters' preseason game. That's what a lot of you have to realize. A lot of these starters don't play in the preseason, so week 1 is their preseason game. There's no reason to overreact on week 1, but weeks 2 going forward, that's whenever things start getting more critical. When okay, if T. Higgins comes out and has 1 target for 1 catch and 10 yards next week, that's when we start to okay, what do we do with T. Higgins? Do we trade him? Do we just stash him on the bench and hopefully that Cincinnati Bengals offense puts it together later in the year? That week 2 and beyond is really where we're going to focus on that. Right now, not too worried about it. Like Drake, same with Drake London. Drake London is a little different because their offense just doesn't throw the ball at all, right? I think they didn't even eclipse 20 passing attempts yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, or Sunday, I'm sorry. If I'm not mistaken, and Drake London saw 0 of those, nothing. He saw 0 targets, 0 receptions, same as T. Higgins. He's someone that I'm a little bit more worried about just because the Falcons won their game and played their brand of football. Give it to the running back. Give it to Bijan. Even Tyler Algier came out and had, what was it, 10 to 15 carries on 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I think he out carried Bijan. So it's just a weird. Arthur Smith coming from Tennessee, you saw what they did with Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill a few years ago when they made it to the AFC Championship. You saw their brand of football when Arthur Smith was the assistant coach for the Tennessee Titans. Run the football. Give it to Derrick Henry. Give it to Derrick Henry and give it to Derrick Henry. That's what the Falcons are going to do here. And now they have 2 stud running backs in Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier where they don't need to throw the ball. Now they have a real 1-2 punch. You don't have a wide receiver in Cordero Patterson playing running back anymore. You have Bijan, who is an exceptional athlete. If you saw his touchdown catch against Carolina, you know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about because I watched him for the past 3 years at Texas. The dude is exceptional. He's generational. He's gifted. He's going to do great things for that offense. Same with Tyler Algier. He was 1,000 yard. I think he was 1,000 yard rusher last season, if not on pace to be a 1,000 yard rusher last season. They're not going to throw the ball over 25 times. That I don't think the Falcons touched 25 pass attempts in a game all year. So Drake London is someone I'm a little bit more worried about just because he's not going to see the volume that T. Higgins is going to end up seeing. And next we have Dallas Goddard, who also went 0 for 0. He was wide open on a lot of plays. Jalen Hurts just missed him. He threw it. He did have a target. I believe he threw it to him late in the game on a 3rd down. He just missed Dallas Goddard. I'm not worried about this again. Like I said, Dallas Goddard is premier tight end. He's up there with Kelsey and Andrews. I think he's the 3rd best tight end in the NFL. I think he's a better tight end than George Kittle. If he can improve on his run blocking, Dallas Goddard is a true gifted NFL tight end. It's just where does that lie in fantasy? He's gonna get his. He's just like a bunch of these other guys. Dallas Goddard is gonna have his games. Week 1 is just such an outlier of a week for these guys. I don't think Dallas Goddard saw any preseason action as well. They got to connect. This offense started off slow, it sputtered. The Eagles really won that game based off of a defensive effort. I expect us to get the offense going again. Shane Steichen is no longer calling the plays for us as he's at Indianapolis, but I really trust our offense going forward. I think we put it together, and I think Dallas Goddard has a really big year. So just hold on to him. Tight ends in general are such a hard position to find points. You're always going to have that one that's on the waivers that goes off for 20 plus or 15 plus points. That's just how the tight end game goes. Said my start of the week was going to be Raheem Mostert. I was really high on him this week. A touchdown saved his game. I will say that. He had 10 attempts for 37 yards, a rushing touchdown. He had 2 receptions and 13 yards. Not such a great week, but for a start of the week, you're usually looking at flex play. Who am I going to start at, my second flex, or if I have an injury? That's exactly really what you want. You want a touchdown, a player that can come in and score a touchdown and get you 10 plus PPR points, in which he did, and he even got you 10 plus standard points. So it's not a bad week, but whenever the over under hits 60, whenever it's 30 to 34 in the fourth quarter, you do want more from your starting running back. You want another touchdown, or you want a long rush, which he's very capable of doing. So if you started him, you were pleased. You weren't exactly, it wasn't the home run shot you were looking for, but he did come in and get you viable points in a flex spot. Don't think you want to start him going forward, because Devon A. Chain is probably going to come in and play. He was just banged up a little bit, but I do expect going forward Devon A. Chain to be more in the mix. So that wraps up our week one reactions. We're going to go over some waiver pickups this week. Who my top five guys that I'm targeting are, and I know if there's some people in my league listening to this, it's gonna backfire on me. They're gonna target them as well. We are in a format where we use free agent acquisition budget, or FAB. We have $100 to spend on the year. So you go in and you essentially bid on players for today. And on Wednesday, whoever has the highest bid, they get the player. And going forward, it's open regular waivers. My number one target this week isn't going to come to a surprise for a lot of people. It's going to be Puka Nakua. He had 15 targets against the Seattle Seahawks defense, who is supposed to be really good. He caught 10 of those for 119 yards. He didn't get in the end zone, but if he did, this would have been a breakout game. And with Cooper Kupp slated to miss the next 3 games, he was put on IR before the start of the game Sunday, so it did count towards his 4 games that he has to sit out on IR. So he's going to miss the next 3 games and maybe beyond. We don't know the severity of his hamstring injury, but even whenever he comes back, Puka Nakua should be a viable fantasy start. So target Puka Nakua. I would say put maybe 10% of your fab, if maximum 20% of your fab, just because he's not the long-term wide receiver one. Cooper Kupp is going to come back and be a target hog. This is a rental. This is how I view Puka Nakua, as a short-term, maybe next 4 to 5 week rental. And by week 6 and beyond, it's going to be the Cooper Kupp show. But these are crucial weeks where you need wins. So go ahead and go get your guy. Go get Puka Nakua, put him in your lineup, and expect the same things. Number two, also from the LA Rams, is Kyron Williams. I had a question on YouTube. Someone asked me Cam Akers or James Cook. I told him Cam Akers. He did have the volume, and it was a standard league that this guy was asking me about. He had the volume that you want in a standard league, and he did have a touchdown. So that's really what you want in a standard league. You want the touchdown and you want the volume. But he had 22 attempts for 29 yards. He was almost averaging 1 yard a carry, just over 1 yard a carry. That's not going to cut it. Pick up Kyron Williams. He seemed to be the better back. He had 15 attempts, 52 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was by far the more explosive runner, by far the better running back, and he can pass block. He could pass block way better than Cam Akers. If he's sitting on your waivers, I would go pick up Kyron Williams. Again, if you're in a fab format, I would only spend about 20% on him. If you're in dire need, if you lost J.K. Dobbins, spend more. If you're in dire need of a running back, go ahead and pay up, because you're not going to get replacement per se for Dobbins, but you are going to get a guy that can come in and get you 52 yards and 2 touchdowns on the week in and week out. That was against a really good Seattle defense, I thought, and their schedule really isn't that tough going forward. I know over the next four they have Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Philadelphia. So Kyron Williams is a guy that I'm going to target if I lost J.K. Dobbins, if Aaron Jones misses extended period of time. I don't think I start him over any starting running back now, but he is a waiver pickup. I mean, that's essentially what this is obviously waiver pickup show. You're going to want to pick up guys that maybe can take over the backfield, and he definitely has the ability to do so. If you watched my show last week, I told you to keep an eye on Sean Tucker. He looked like the better back. Yes, Rashad White had more carries. He only averaged as well, I think, 2 yards a carry. He had 17 attempts. You had Sean Tucker come in and get 5 attempts, but had 15 yards. He's averaging 3 a carry. I think he looked more explosive than Rashad White. Just think in that sense is the same thing going on in LA, where you had a clear number one in Cam Akers, and now you have a guy coming out, Kyron Williams. But Kyron Williams is poised to take over that backfield. He's more explosive. He's just the better back, I think. So if you have him on your waivers, target him. My third guy that I am targeting, coming in at number 3 on this list, is Hayden Hurst. No one probably expected that, but Hayden Hurst, he had 7 targets for the Carolina Panthers Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons, who picked off Bryce Young twice, by the way. So he did have 7 targets. It led the team. He had 41 yards and a touchdown. A lot of people are going to be targeting Hunter Henry. A lot of people are going to be targeting these guys that exploded last week. And Hunter Henry is a good waiver target, but in a competitive league where say you're eighth on the waiver wire order, or you don't want to spend a lot of fab because you're already investing in Kyron Williams and Puka Nakua, which don't get those two guys on the same team. I don't like having players from the same team on my team. But if you already invested money in Kyron or Puka and you need a tight end and you can't go get Hunter Henry because you're not going to be able to outbid people because he had a monster game last week, go get Hayden Hurst. He's a reliable target in a wide receiver room that's still questionable. DJ Shark is going to be injured for who knows how long. He has a hamstring injury. Yeah, he may play. You have Adam Thielen, who was non existent in the game. Jonathan Mingo, who has yet to really have that breakout uh, possibility, even, which I do still think you should stash Jonathan Mingo. But for right now, Hayden Hurst is the most reliable target who's not named Miles Sanders for Bryce Young. So go get Hayden Hurst. It's not going to cost you anything. He may be there even tomorrow morning. No one's going to put a claim in for him, possibly. But go ahead and go get a Hayden Hurst. That's who I'm looking at. He's like I said, a reliable target for Bryce Young, who is going to struggle with growing pains. But in a tight end market where if you don't have any of the top 3, 4 guys, maybe it's the top 2, Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, who didn't play this week, are so far ahead of the rest of the pack, aside from maybe Dallas Goedert, who's in a tier between Mark Andrews and Kelce, and then it's Dallas Goedert, and then it's the rest. I like Hayden Hurst. I think that's going to be a good play for you. Number 4, this is a big one as well. This is one who I think everyone should be targeting. He had a great game. All right, Jordan Love. Green Bay Packers quarterback coming off 245 yards and 3 touchdowns with no turnovers without his top wide receiver option in Christian Watson. Jordan Love is my 4th waiver wire pickup of the week. He goes to Atlanta next week as they obviously just really shut down Bryce Young. I don't expect that to be the case with the Green Bay Packers. I think the Green Bay Packers are way ahead of the Carolina Panthers in terms of where they're at, where their roster sits. He should be getting Christian Watson back this week. I believe that he is going to be a top 10 quarterback this year based off of that performance. I was really hesitant to pick him up in the draft. I was hesitant to pick him up in DFS. I didn't know how he was going to look in the past. He hasn't looked very good when Rodgers has went out. But if you lost Aaron Rodgers in a league this week, if you had him as your starting quarterback and you don't have a viable backup, a lot of people don't roster 2 quarterbacks, pick up Jordan Love. Again, 245 yards and 3 touchdowns. He balled out. 2 of those went to Romeo Dobbs. I wish one would have went to Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed got rocked and was never really the same after that first pitch that he got. Christian Watson should be coming back. Again, you have Luke Musgrave, who he targeted quite a bit. I think Jordan Love is going to be a viable replacement quarterback. Again, he's got Atlanta next week and then New Orleans at home and then Detroit at home. So it's really a pretty decent fantasy stretch over the next few weeks. If you don't have a quarterback, if you've lost Aaron Rodgers, this is a guy you want in your lineup. And to round out my waiver wire picks, I'm going with none other than Rashid Shaheed, wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. He is a baller. He's a widely slept on wide receiver because you have Michael Thomas there and you have Chris Olave there, who respectively had good games. But Shaheed had 6 targets. He caught 5 of them for 89 yards and had a touchdown. If you're in a deeper league, a 12 or 14 or 16 man league, and you have a deep roster, this is someone that I think can come in and be a viable flex play for you. If you're in a 10 team league, I don't think this is as good of a pickup. I wouldn't pick him up in a 10 team league. That's just because your rosters are already stacked and he's not going to play over anyone that you have. You have a viable replacement for some of these guys, but if you're in a normal 12 team league, a PPR league, again, in a standard league, I don't know that I would put him in there. He does have the boom bust ability. He reminds me a little bit of Deshaun Jackson. You're either going to get a long touchdown or you're not, and he's either going to win you your week or he's going to lose you your week. So that's a risk that you got to take with them. If you're dealing with injuries, you have an extra bench spot. This is a guy that you want to target. I think maybe give it 5% of your fab budget or just waiting until tomorrow to see if he falls through the waiver wire. That's a good option as well. If you don't have to start him this week, I wouldn't. This is a guy that I'm wanting to wait and see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Again, he goes to Carolina, he goes to Green Bay, and then he's home at Tampa Bay, who does not have a very good defense, allowing 38 fantasy points to wide receivers. And that was against the Minnesota Vikings, who are a very good team. So just be on the lookout for Rashid Shaheed. I think that's a target as well. So those are my top 5 waiver wire pickups for the week. Hope that helps you. I hope that if you were contemplating between some guys, I hope this gives you a little bit of an edge against them. Some of these guys are going to be league winners. Someone like Rashid Shaheed long term might be a league winner. Jordan Love might be a league winner if you did lose Aaron Rodgers. I didn't talk about fab on Jordan Love. I think if you lost Aaron Rodgers, you have to go get him, right? You can always stream a quarterback. I don't like doing that. I think that's a stupid decision. Quarterback is such an important position, especially if you're in a QB heavy scoring league like I'm in, where their passing touchdowns count as 6 points rather than four. 3 touchdowns is 18 points alone, right? That's league winning material or that's week winning material. Go pick him up. Told y'all last week to stash Anthony Richardson. I didn't think he was going to break out week one, and he had an amazing game. Yeah, he had the one turnover, but other than that, he looked solid. He looked really good against a pretty decent Jags defense. So just be on the lookout for those guys. If Anthony Richardson is on your waiver wire, pick him up as well. I don't think he's not gonna be. He was widely drafted in most leagues. But yeah, Jordan Love is a guy to target and spend. If you lost Aaron Rodgers and don't have a backup, spend about 25 to 30% of your fab on him. I think he's gonna be good season long. And now we have a segment called Fire Sale. I know I've been talking this whole day about, or this whole show about not overreacting on players' performances, as week one being an outlier to not overreact. But these are 2 players that I'm willing to look for trades on, that I'm willing to sell to get some value back. These are You never want to stop improving your team. That goes for week one, that goes for week 14. You never really want to stop improving your team. Lowe's needs to sponsor me for that. The first player, I'm going to give you 2 players here that I'm willing to either sell, that I'm not willing to trade for, but I'm willing to sell. The first one being Kyle Pitts. I have him in pretty much all of my leagues. Just where he was being drafted, I liked him above any other player around that ADP. Unfortunately, I was expecting a different season this year from Arthur Smith, and I talked about it earlier. Their passing volume just isn't going to be there. Kyle Pitts, again, more of the same from last season. In a week where tight end plays were very odd, Darren Waller didn't have a good game, George Kittle didn't have a good game. People are going to say, okay, Kyle Pitts, yeah, 2 catches for 44 yards. He got bailed out by a bomb. That's what it is. He's still the tight end 22 on the season just after that play. Like, I know it's week 1. I know I've been saying don't overreact, but the Falcons are an outlier to the week 1 outlier in where they played their brand of football, and that's not going to change. Nothing is going to shift in the direction of Kyle Pitts and Drake London. They're going to give their ball to their 2 running backs, and that's it. Kyle Pitts hasn't been a playmaker since his rookie season. I don't expect that to change this season. He didn't have any touchdowns his rookie season. He may have touchdowns this season, but he's not going to touch 1,000 yards. He's not going to get anywhere near 1,000 yards. Coming off a knee injury last season, you saw on the big bomb that they threw to him. You throw it up to him, he's gonna catch it. The problem is they don't throw it up to him. They don't throw him the ball, period. 3 targets over the course of a football game for your best wide receiving option is not gonna cut it. Look to trade him. Like I said, if you can trade him for a wide receiver or running back for a team that maybe a Falcons fan is in your league or someone, I wouldn't even try to go for a Falcons fan because he probably knows the same thing. You could trade Kyle Pitts for a viable wide receiver or running back option and pick up Hayden Hurst. Like, that's exactly what I'm going to try to do for sure in all of my leagues, but that's something that you should look at. And the number 2 player that I have here on Fire Sale is someone that I really, really, really was high on. He was my quote unquote my guy going into this season. Someone that I was targeting in all of my leagues that I ended up getting in all of my leagues except the most important one, which I was very bummed out about to begin with. But now I'm kind of relieved that I wasn't able to get him. And that is Garrett Wilson, wide receiver for the New York Jets. Look, you spend a some people I saw taking him in some of my leagues in the first round, towards the end of the first round. I took, I was at pick 10 in a 12-team league. I took Saquon and I was gun ho going for Garrett Wilson in the second round on the turn. He got taken 2 picks before me, so I grabbed Amon-Ra St. Brown. And boy, am I glad because with Aaron Rodgers going down, that just is a disaster waiting to happen for Garrett Wilson. And I'll tell you why. Zach Wilson came in and targeted him. Yes, Garrett Wilson had a touchdown yesterday, and yes, he will have touchdowns. But last season in 2022, when Zach Wilson was under center, Garrett Wilson had 34 receptions for 447 yards in 9 games. He had 46 targets. He averaged just 4 receptions and 50 yards per game while Zach Wilson was playing rather. That's not gonna cut it for a wide receiver you took in the second round or late first round. You need more. You need someone that's gonna average 6 and 90 or 7 and 100, like Justin Jefferson is gonna do, like Jamar Chase will probably end up doing, like Amon Ra has the ability to do. This is not something that you want to see. This was the worst case scenario for Garrett Wilson owners was Zach Wilson coming in and taking over at quarterback. You drafted him high because Aaron Rodgers is there. You watched Hard Knocks, you saw the chemistry they had. And now with Aaron Rodgers going down for the season, you want to sell him. You want to try to get some value. Maybe someone loves the name, maybe someone loves the potential, and maybe you selling him is not going to work well for you long term. But I just don't want to deal with the headache of watching Zach Wilson run around like a chicken with his head cut off and just throwing the ball into tight windows, throwing the ball directly to the other team for interceptions. I don't want to watch that as a fantasy owner. I'd rather trade him for a different wide receiver. If you can trade him and maybe throw in, look, if you have both of these guys, Garrett Wilson and Kyle Pitts, package them together and maybe someone's going to bite on it. Package Garrett Wilson and Kyle Pitts and go get Calvin Ridley. I would trade both of those guys for Calvin Ridley. And I don't know if even the Calvin Ridley owner is going to go for that. That's a template style trade that I would make just because I'm not ready to watch either of these 2 guys play this season. It was stressful enough for me week 1 watching Kyle Pitts. I'm trying to sell him quickly. So yeah, that's something that you need to think about going forward. But that's gonna wrap up our show today on September 12th. I hope everyone won their weeks this week. I know 50% of you didn't, and 50% of you did. So going forward, we'll see you back here Wednesday tomorrow for the Thursday night preview. We're going to talk a little bit about the Thursday night football game, which is the Eagles and the Vikings, the implications that's going to have. We'll talk about, we'll see about the news for Aaron Rodgers. We didn't get any breaking news yet. So there is 27 minutes ago, it was confirmed that Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. He is done for the season. That is horrible. That is horrible. Aaron Rodgers is done for the season. It was confirmed by MRI. That's just tough, man. I love Aaron Rodgers. I love the guy. I was really hoping for big things from him. Unfortunately, he's done for the year. So yeah, all my again look to trade Garrett Wilson. I don't I don't know. That's huge for the Jets in real life and in real football. That's huge for the Jets. That's disappointing. I know Robert Saleh is probably devastated. Aaron Rodgers is devastated. We'll see if we see him play football again. I don't know. But we'll see you back here tomorrow with the Thursday night breakdown. I hope everyone has a good day, a good week. And that's going to do it for me. What's up, everyone? It's Derek here again. Thank you for watching the video. If you stayed to the end, I appreciate you so much. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. Links will be in the description. Be sure to follow me, subscribe. I'm not going to beg for subscriptions because I don't really care. I'm doing this because I love to do this. I'm doing this to share some knowledge with you guys. Thank you for watching. Hope everyone has a great day.